equipping others with knowledge to empower the next generation. You are now listening to the What in the World Leadership Podcast with Pastor J.C. Ramirez.
Welcome, everybody, to the What in the World podcast. This is J.C. Ramirez. I am a pastor at the Lubbock Dream Center. And with me today, I have two really great friends of mine, Justin Esquivel.
What's up, guys?
And Marco Padron.
Awesome. Man, I'm glad to be here.
So today's topic, I guess, me and Marco actually had a chance to talk about this a little bit about a week ago. And cue the music if you got that. If you don't, it's okay. There's an epidemic today with, for one, with social media in general, but the use of it from teenagers. I had given the, I guess, situation that I experienced from a teenager that I love dearly, but the cell phone was taken from them, and unfortunately, this teenager literally almost had a, I'm just as honest can be, a mental breakdown. It was surprising to me just because I've never seen anything like that before. So
it's like a crackhead who said, "Hey man, your dealer is going to be out of town for the weekend."
Yeah, I don't got another dealer. They took away his dealer, and but again, we were talking about this because, for one, we're really, trying to pursue culture and, of course, community with our teenagers in the area of Lubbock, Texas. And with that being said, it's almost like, I guess this is, and this is what the research has shown, is this is becoming such a dependence that kids, like the one I encountered, they're just losing it.
Yeah, it's like an addiction to drugs, like I said. You know, it's an addiction very similar to drugs. It's getting addicted to your smartphone, just similar as one gets addicted to like cocaine or crack or heroin or something.
So you're telling me that Justin can get addicted to his smartphone just as much as cocaine?
Yes.
I honestly believe that because, as I can say that, as I feel like I am addicted to my phone. As more we talked about this subject, I realize whenever I'm listening to a podcast or I'm looking on YouTube or someone's speaking, instantly within like 8 seconds, I'm already on my phone, just going through social media. I can pay attention to what's going on the outside, but instantly it's just habit of just grabbing the phone, opening up any kind of app. I have 3 apps to choose from: Facebook, Instagram, and Snapchat.
But it's crazy because, you think about it and you're like, okay, think of the times when you look at your phone, you have text messages, you're like, oh, I got text messages. I suppose when you look at your phone, you're like, nobody texts me? Then you feel like a loser, because nobody texts you. You're like, man, it's been 12 minutes and nobody's texted me. What's going on?
See, I only got like 4 friends, so I can't relate.
My mom doesn't know how to text, so my phone is dry.
Yeah.
And 2 of them are in here right now. So
get out. It's, I guess, because when we're looking at it, the most used social media sites right now is Instagram, Snapchat, and the long-going, still strong Facebook. Facebook defeated the once great MySpace.
Rest in peace, MySpace.
Yeah, man, I'm telling you, MySpace was the jam back. I say back in the day. This was literally, 9 years ago for me. So I remember being able to customize your backgrounds, put music profile song, and whoever was in your top friends. You always had the top 8, top 10, and before the death of MySpace, you had top 100, so nobody could get mad at you. You're in the top 100. Just, hey, be glad you made it. Right?
You made the cut.
You made the 100. We talk once a year, but you made it.
You're up there.
Exactly. But no, man, it's just crazy seeing how social media, for one, is transformed. Just with the, whole epidemic of millennials, for example. A generation that me and Justin are in. We are millennials, and it's just different. Now, considering myself being a millennial, I don't find myself in some of these certain predicaments or situations that these others do. For example, the smartphone addiction. I didn't know how serious of this thing until I'm researching it. There's smartphone rehabs, detoxes.
Oh, wow. That I didn't know.
I know. No, see, I'm telling you, man, this thing goes deep. Now, they did a special on it, I believe a year ago in BBC, the British Broadcasting.
Across the seas.
The C stands for something. But anyways, they did that. And so there was 4 girls that were doing the study on it. Of course, they take the cell phones away. And very similar to how the student I interacted with, they start having anxiety and they start having literally like the separation of it's like you just took a part of me away.
Yeah.
And to me, I just don't get that. I mean, for me, when I'm using my smartphone, I use it predominantly just for reading. I mean, podcasts, reading books, whether that's religious, not religious. I mean, I love to read, but I don't use my phone for the satisfaction of, I guess, a social status. I mean, is that what you would call it? A social status?
Yeah, I guess
popular, not popular. I mean, we're dealing with that in a totally different way now. Obviously, with this generation, our generation.
I think like streaks. I think that's why it's so important. It also feeds into that addiction, but also feeds into the popularity type thing, like you were saying.
And see, I was wondering about that too, because I didn't know about streaks or really much about Snapchat until last year. And I had some of our wonderful youth show me how to set it up and everything. Not because I didn't know how, just because I didn't want to.
Right.
So they basically did it for me. Now, in saying that, I never got the, I guess, concept of the streak stuff. Like, they're literally taking pictures of whatever. Literally, I mean, the wall, their shoe, the sky. I mean, it's nothing, and they just send it. And like, stick on my streak.
Yeah.
What is the purpose of that? That doesn't show care. That doesn't show, like, hey, I'm just letting you know, man, I'm thinking about you. Hope you're all right. Dude, you just sent me a picture of your hairy leg. Like,
it's funny because I have 2 friends right now, and they have this streak, and I'm pretty sure their conversations are more in depth on Snapchat than just a picture of a tree. But they're like, I think, like day 200 and something.
oh, wow.
Yeah,
Oh, wow.
I think so. Either that or they're coming up on that 300 and something. It's one of those, but I know it's way past 100 and way past 200.
That's just crazy.
It's every day. It's like a commitment.
Yeah, to an extent it is. And what's crazy too is because I've been on the other side of that is I remember I think my longest streak, and I could be wrong, but it was about 40 something days. And during this time, I guess I didn't do it right, because you have to send a picture. It's not just a message. You got to send the picture, right? Mm-hmm. As long as it's a picture, you keep your streak. And it's got to be within 24 hours. Mm-hmm. Now, I guess I forgot to send the picture. So the streak is 0. All you have is a smiley face. There's no more fire in the days. And I remember they're like, why didn't you message me? Or dude, you killed our streak. I'm just like, whoa, hold up. I remember sending you something. I don't know if it was a picture, but I'm not the Snapchat killer streak.
Snapchat.
But I never knew the importance of, I guess, streaks. I mean, I'm not very into the fads, I guess you could say, but I try to keep on the up and up just due to, 24, and I don't want to be seen as somebody who's actually way older. So try to keep up the Call of Duties.
It's nice to know, in a sense, so you could use it to relate to kids.
Oh, absolutely.
And be instead of staying ignorant to what's going on.
And that's one thing too I wanted to bring up. I mean, just as a topic in general, not just for everybody in general, but for parents as well. I mean, myself as yes, a pastor, a youth pastor. Of course, I want parents to know, but I don't really think the parents know on the depth of how serious this is becoming.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think, and to the point where, I mean, it's used as like for myself, I use it as punishment. Growing up, if I got in trouble, then I get spanked.
Same here.
Spanked. My son, given the option, either I can spank you or I take away your phone. He'll take spankings all day.
Oh.
But you take away the phone, then it's more dire consequences. Then he'll straighten up, make sure his grades are up, or whatever it is to correct the action. It gets corrected, and it's that important when it gets to a point where you can use it as, in a sense, reinforcement.
Wow. And I can see that too. I mean, for me, man, I'll take a whooping all day over being grounded.
Oh yeah,
I'm in jail. Very much true.
I'm like, man, I don't want to be grounded. Let's go with the spanking, but please don't take away my TV and my PlayStation, and don't take away the MySpace and I guess the social media access we also had. I guess, I mean, Justin, I don't know if you could relate. It was very limited. So that anytime I was on the computer as a teenager, high schooler, middle schooler, was during the times that my parents were home, and the times that I had access to the computer. So I didn't have it always there, but man, I could relate to waking up the next morning and literally checking my MySpace account and got a friend. I don't even know who this person is.
But you're my friend.
But you're my friend. You made it to the top 100. Congrats. Because I only had 99 friends.
And I think that's a big part of what feeds into this. So we talked about the science part of it, the dopamine addictions and stuff, and it gets released in your brain every time that you get a text message or you get a Snapchat, or your streak keeps going. You get a little feeding, of dopamine. But it's also, I think, in my opinion, it's also the fact that everything is so accessible. It's like instant gratification. Growing up, we did Beavis and Butthead, and every now and then they'll do or whatever it was growing up. X-Files or Star Trek or something, and they always did that to be continued, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And we actually had to wait till next Thursday to see what happened, or the Power Rangers or whatever it was. And now, I mean, and I'm guilty of it. You can go on Netflix and just stream anything.
That's true.
I mean, everything's so accessible as to, I mean, I actually had to go up and get rejected by a girl face to face. Hey girl, what's up? And get rejected. Now it's just like swipe right, swipe left. Like there's no, it's the instant gratification of it, and also feeds into that addiction, I think.
No, and that's kind of, I guess, what I'm seeing too, just from, for one, these statistics and everything, from kids are, I mean, it's saying on these statistics that, we have over 67 teenagers saying they know how to hide what they do online from parents. 67%. Now, we're thinking about teenagers in America. That's still a large amount. Now, I don't know.
That's huge.
That's
exactly.
over half. So
that's over half. Now, with today's technology, kids are becoming smarter. Now, this is what I'll say. As somebody who personally, and being more real and open, is for one, I have a very addictive personality. Some people may ask, what is that? Well, easy. If I find something I like, I can get addicted to it in a day.
Yeah.
That's just the truth.
Same way.
Now, same concept with, pornography, all right? I was introduced to pornography at a very young age, and unfortunately became a very difficult, just struggle in my life to get over. It hurt my marriage. It hurt me. I mean, and it hurt the way I viewed women. Yeah. But back then, now, we didn't have incognito tab.
That's true. I grew up in the same generation, so I understand.
So, I mean, I'm over here trying to delete, history. And then, I get the dreaded morning after knock on my bedroom door. My dad's like, again? Like,
you forgot to delete your history again, Mike.
I'm just like, I thought I did. And he's like, no, you don't know how. So I always got caught, period. But these kids now, all they have to do is hit incognito, and there is no trace.
That's true.
Right?
That's
I mean, as far as I know, Google leaves no trace, and I know Firefox has their own private, everybody's coming out with their own private browser tab to where you can get on everything. The only thing that can be seen is the content from the service provider. Some people have AT&T, some people have Suddenlink, whatever it may be. Now, I feel like this generation is just like in such a baby held type thing. It's like,
it is.
We'll give everything to you. Don't worry about it. We can help you hide your secrets. We can help you hide whatever it is. We got you. The world has your back. And to an extent, or the world of technology.
And then that's sad because it makes it okay for our youth to do that. And
exactly.
like I was explaining to you earlier, that for me, with technology just in general, like my Xbox is like my best friend. The first thing I do basically when I get home is I turn it on and I have access to everything like we're talking about right now. So I have access to YouTube, Netflix, HBO Now, a Twitch account, everything. All of my stuff's on there, and it's easy for me to set up. And that's the first thing I do. And I mean, I'm not necessarily connected to a lot of friends. Yeah, I have friends on Xbox Live and stuff like that, but I can watch shows. I can go inform myself about different things. Yeah. But the sad thing is, though, is that you get addicted to it.
Right.
And it's just, and the world wants to tell you, it's okay. You're just doing this. You're informing yourself. It's not okay. I mean, there's plenty of times where, like I was telling you, I had it to where I wanted it. I lost all this weight. I was doing good in school, doing all these great things, and all of a sudden I was introduced to one video game 3 years ago.
Yeah.
There's one video game 3 years ago, and that's the thing. The most successful time is when I didn't have technology there. I had to put my mind and focus on something else. But when technology came, that video came right there, literally, I would make my schedule around that game. Yeah, and that's how crazy it is. And that's coming from a 23-year-old now, realizing I
guess I just got to interject. I mean, you do know that Hooked on Phonics isn't a game, right? No, I'm just playing. No, we had this conversation. I understand. Yes. I was the same way with World of Warcraft. I mean, I played it very religiously. Man, I even went out and bought a gaming laptop just to play it better. I mean, literally, so no lag, no. And at one point, I was like, "Oh man, where does all the time go?"
Yeah, because then you turn around and it's 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning. I remember doing that. Before that, there was a game called EverQuest.
Oh yeah.
And I played EverQuest till 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, knowing I had to get up and work at 6 o'clock. And the time flies. It's addicting.
What's so crazy though is that in those situations, we'll make the time. And we literally will make the time.
That's what I was explaining.
I gotta wake up in 3 hours. Oh, I'll be okay. I'll be all right. I'll play 1 more hour.
I've done it before.
And we'll do the sacrifice. We'll sacrifice our bodies and minds so we can play 1 more hour, get to another, reach another level in your character's development or whatever it may be, a new rank in Call of Duty. I mean, there's so much now today with online gaming, but man, I remember, even as, an adult, I remember doing that, staying up till I got a certain prestige. I mean, that's what you're saying in Call of Duty, right? So prestige, and for me, man, I just getting all the gym badges in Pokemon. So I'm gonna edit that out, but I'm a huge Pokemon fan, so I'm
same here.
You can call me man kid.
We're little big kids. We'll just say that.
I mean, you're a big kid, but
I am a big kid.
I'm a man.
I think the scary part, and this is something I try to break from my son, is he's not bad about it now, but he got to a point where he was so addicted to his phone that they sleep with it underneath their pillow. And it's like, it has to be right here. Even though I sleep and I'm dead asleep, it has to be next to me.
That's crazy.
And stuff. And then you see, like, when the lithium batteries came out, and all of them started catching on fire with, it was a Samsung or something.
Yeah.
And then pillows were catching on fire because kids will stick them under their pillow as they sleep. The pillow catch on fire, the air catch on fire.
Little Timmy lost his ear because he was sleeping with his Samsung phone.
It's crazy.
Is it worth the risk? That they should put that in boxes. Is it worth the risk? Do not sleep with your phone.
That's ultimately the question to everything. Is it worth the risk? Is this worth the risk?
Is it worth the risk?
Well, and that's what I was telling you guys, that story that came out of China, where that and it's man, it's a sad story, but it kind of opened your eyes to the bigger picture. I mean, this is a grown adult. Now she's going to the market with her son, hand in hand, holding hands, and she receives a notification, whether it's from social media or whatever, that, hey, someone's invited you to play a game. Do you accept? She accepts it, okay? So they're walking to the market, but her full attention is set on the phone, playing the game. They come to a stop. She just, here comes thunder. But she glances and she knows to stop, right? Now she goes back to playing the game. Again, her full attention is in the game. Now, during this moment in time, she hears a loud bang, crash. Gets her attention. She's looking around. Her son's no longer by her side. And she's looking and looking. Finally, she sees what the bang was. It was a car wreck. But within that car wreck was also her son. So we're talking about, I mean, it's much bigger. I mean, I agree that I think that the smartphone epidemic, the social media, man, it's on a whole new level. But hearing something that devastating is like, just because you want to play Angry Birds, like really, or Candy Crush. I mean, come on, what was that worth? Now and please, I mean, there is sympathy in this, but is that I mean, you lost your son. Was that worth it? Was that 15 seconds of just full absorption in that game that you can download from Google Play, the Apple Store, whatever operating system you're using? Was it worth it? I mean, and again, I say sympathy in that because when I first heard it's saddening. It's like, man,
it's very sad.
I couldn't imagine. But at the same time, we can say, hey guys, we got to start doing some off-screen time, and there's, I guess the addiction part of it is the thing that everybody's going to have to overcome now. And I mean, is this the generation to do it, or do you think it's going to become worse?
It's scary that it may become worse. I think it's a knowledge-based thing. So I think everything, if you look at like studies that we've looked at, and everything we've been brought up to think about addiction is not entirely true. We think like, so if you get addicted to heroin, there's a chemical in the heroin that gets you addicted, but that's not true. Because I work in the medical field, and if grandma comes in with a broken hip, we give them morphine, which is,
very similar.
Yeah, it's a heroin's a derivative of morphine. And we don't ever release grandma out back into the world, a heroin addict. She's not twitching. Yeah. She's not. So you study it and think, well, then what's the difference, right?
The feeling.
Yeah. And you think, so whenever we're based off of these studies with rats, right? So like back, I don't know when it was, but I know they did rat studies. And they put a rat in a box, and we could do it at home, put a rat in a box and give them 2 water bottles, one with drugs, one without. And every single time, 100% of the time, the rat's going to overdose on the one with drugs, and pretty like fast, actually. The more they drink it, the more they take. And I think there was this guy, his name was like Bruce Alexander, right? And like in the 70s, and he just looked at it and he said, well, so what's really going on? We put this rat in a box, totally isolated him. And he just kept going. Well, of course. So then he built this like rat park, right? So it had all these like tubes and balls they could play with and cheese. And they had other rats. So he can have friends. He can go do.
He built Rat City.
Yes, and they could go mate with other rats. And
My worst nightmare.
And then he put the same bottles. One water bottle with drugs in it. The other one, and very rarely did they ever go to the one with the drugs.
Wow.
So
they learned.
So there's a community, and it's not. So you think about, well, maybe there's a chemical in heroin, and it's not. It's actually the environment that you're in. Because if you're isolated and you have drugs and no drugs, of course you're going to go to drugs. But if you have, if you're a rat city, you're going to go to be with your friends. And the crazy thing is, so whenever he did this study, it was in the 70s. Well, there was also other, like a live human experiment, even though you didn't know it, was going on in the 70s, which was the Vietnam War. And everybody was hooked. Well, not everybody, but a good percentage of people were hooked on heroin in Vietnam. And they were
accessible.
They thought they were going to come back just junkies. And some of them did, but most did not. They just came back and just quit cold turkey. So what is it? And that's where, like we talked about it, it's the environment that and community based.
Then can we say, obviously, I don't want to say with 100%, put a stamp on a thing, but the things, the people that surround us, they're the sole cause of our addictions. It's not yes and no. Yes, it's the people that are around you, but also if you get to a point where a lot of these kids are if they're on their phone, how many true relationships do they have? They're kind of isolated. Well, I remember that one girl I dated in Alaska. No, I'm just. But you hear stories like that.
Yeah,
so that's true.
We dated, and
where she lived, I think Tokyo.
Yeah,
somewhere around there.
But they isolate themselves. So I think it's in a sense it's a cage that you surround yourself in, and if you surround yourself with good people, then you trade one, like I said, with the dopamine release, and I think that's the chemical that's addicting. So you trade one for another.
Right.
You trade one addiction for another, and you can call it addiction or you can call it bonding. You can bond. If you're isolated, then you're going to bond to something, whether it be weed or whether it be coke or whether it be friends. Like you said,
you got the stoner clique. They all hang out. Why? Because they all got weed.
They all got weed, and that's why. Like you said, addictive personalities. I have the same thing, and I bond with people, and sometimes I bond with people that maybe I shouldn't have, but it's a bonding. I never got addicted to cigarettes or anything. Mm-hmm. I smoked, but I could always quit.
I can't say the same.
But I couldn't. There's certain people that I couldn't quit.
I can understand both those scenarios too. So, because I can understand the relationship part of it. The I guess heartbreak, I guess, to an extent.
Yeah.
But it's more of the comfort. And as somebody who picked up smoking in my freshman year of high school, man, quitting smoking was hard. It really was. From smoking cigarettes to dipping, which was even harder, which I thought was going to make it easier.
It was a good choice.
Yeah, no, it was the biggest lie I've ever told myself.
Nice try.
And no, I tried for, another 2 years. I was like, man, I couldn't. Mm-hmm. Literally to the point, like, if I didn't have the dip in my mouth, I got sick. Like, I'm talking about cold sweats. I'm so nauseous. And then you go away from it and you're like, okay, I'm doing better. Then you relapse and you're in the same situation again. Mm-hmm. And I had a stressful day.
Especially stress. You're like,
I wasn't able to drink at the time, so I was like, I could buy tobacco. Mm-hmm. And so I would go get it, and I'm back in the same situation. And that's what science teaches us. Addicts who come off substances, once they go back on it, they're literally going back to ground zero. Now,
I believe that 100%.
That's crazy, right? But I do too, because I know myself. If I was to do that, man, I'm gonna end up again, buying, using, And for me, I was never an avid drug user. I mean, in my social times, I smoked marijuana with friends. But again, environment.
Yeah.
Would I have ever smoked weed if I never had those friends around me? I want to say probably.
I don't think you smoke it as prevalent as you did. You know, I did the same thing. I grew up in a small town.
Or like maybe, I mean.
As much.
I said that wrong. Like if I didn't have those friends, I don't think I would have.
Yeah.
I don't think I would have.
That's kind of, I grew up in a small town where we did nothing but, there was nothing to do but smoke weed, and play football. That's all we did.
Very similar to love it.
Yeah.
It's true.
You could serve God, smoke weed, or
And you'd be just
play
fine.
sports.
And you'd be just fine.
Or I mean, hey, I don't know. You probably got somebody to do all three, but you know,
But then
it's a world.
But usually, the funny part is those are the more popular kids, and to feel more in the in crowd, knowing from experience, you end up doing it.
Yeah. But I know, like during the summer, since I we lived, I think it was like 20 minutes away from our school, and I lived in the country. So our nearest neighbor was like 7-8 miles away. So whenever I got mad and I wanted to run away, my mom was like, "Go for it," you know.
You literally had to run.
I was like, "Yeah, I'm good where I'm at. Me and He-Man, we'll stay here." But
Trying to make imaginary friends.
yeah, but during the summertime, I didn't have friends, so I didn't smoke weed. It's literally the environment.
That makes sense.
You know,
It's true.
If you don't have access to something, you can't do it.
my bondage was more at that time with family, or at that time my girlfriend. You know, because we actually spent time together.
That is
But I
so
didn't-
crazy. And again, going back to accessibility, it's Snapchat, for example, is the highest social media platform that people send nude pics on. Really is. And people think it's because, it deletes in such and such seconds or a day, right? Well, phone companies came out with these very brilliant ideas called screenshots. You can take a screenshot. Now, if I'm not mistaken, you can do that with or without the person's permission.
Correct. Yeah.
You have that picture, and you can. I'm not saying people. I mean, people do this, but you can just display it for everybody to see. You can pass it around the school. You can show everybody. Same thing. I mean, I've seen it go both ways. Okay, so I've seen it from the girls, aspect, and even some guys. I guess when is there going to be a time where I guess the kids don't have such a, and I don't see that coming to an end. I don't, because everything's so accessible. And I talk about my daughter. She bought her iPod Touch. She loved it. She played on it. But I also found her, downloading apps that weren't for her age. Like, why does my 7-year-old need Instagram? Why? Yeah. She doesn't.
Yep.
Why does my 7-year-old daughter need, such and such game about falling in love, teen romance? My daughter is 7 years old, not a teenager. I love her to death. Smart kid. But I was just like, okay, obviously this is not a place I want to go down because my blood runs through you. I know if I let you be accessible to these things, I'm doing a bad job as a father because I know. Same thing with my son. I mean, he's not even a year, but he will be in November. Once he becomes old enough to, man, I'm gonna be on that dude like a hawk, just because I'm like, no, stop it. I know what's right. No, you don't. The same conversations I've had with my dad.
Yeah, so
seriously, like, oh man, Dad, you're right. I'm sorry, I was such a pain in the butt. But I seriously find myself in those times now, and what scares me the most is that we'll never, I guess, as parents, fully have control. The only way we can is we take the phones away, we take the game consoles away, but then you're also crossing into dangerous territory to where I call the kids that are way too sheltered.
Yes.
Because once they become adults, they get a rush of dopamine to the face. I mean, they literally get slapped with it. The reward system.
We've all seen that person before.
Freedom.
Freedom.
It's just like,
Freedom.
man, I couldn't do this. Now I can. Why? Because I'm an adult.
Yeah.
They
That's
can't,
true.
and it happens. And where is, I guess, for us, I mean, obviously us three are believers. We attend the same church. What can we do, I guess, as somebody, we pour into children's lives every week. How can we help the situation? And to me, that's been the hardest thing that I had to really tell myself, because I can tell a kid, man, you shouldn't be doing that. A kid like, you're right, Pastor JC. And then go home and do whatever he wants.
Right.
It's the truth. But, now we have an option. And that's what I always wanted to do with What in the World, and even this podcast. Parents will listen and say, hey, listen, Snapchat isn't all rainbows and gumdrops and gummy bears. There is a positive side to it, and there's a very dark side to it.
Yeah.
And I mean, I've seen or heard stories of girls' lives getting ruined because of this application.
Yeah. I mean, there's just people, I think there's a couple of ones that I've read that, like you said, they sent out pictures that were meant for just, hey, don't show anybody. But then, of course, they show people, and just the sheer embarrassment of it, they take their lives.
Exactly.
And that's a part of the addiction part of it. That's also the social media aspect of it, is that they don't know how to, they don't get the coping skills or the social skills that we had growing up.
Right.
Because, like I said, their social skills are limited to text messages or Instagram or Snapchat.
FaceTime. I mean, you don't even have to meet somebody face to face to see their face anymore. I mean, that's great if you were overseas. If you're in the same city limit, I mean, let's go have lunch. I mean, for me, I'm not an iPhone user. I use Android, and we're trying to switch Justin over because
Amen.
It's in the Bible.
I don't think that will ever happen.
Hey, listen, Adam and Eve ate from the fruit. It's on the bed. No, I'm just playing. Illuminati.
And I'm just telling you. Just
from the first
I'm
book
a sinner.
First book of Microsoft, I think.
I'm a sinner. I'm sorry.
First book of Google, chapter 22, verse 1. Thou shalt not touch the forbidden fruit.
Thou shalt not touch the apple.
Yeah, I just updated my Bible, so.
Oh, okay.
It's a new version.
Let me look at that version later.
Hey man, I'll send you pictures all day. Just don't screenshot them. No, and I guess that's where I'm at. I'm a father. My oldest daughter is 7. My middle child, my fearless one, my daredevil, Sophia. She actually turns 5 years old tomorrow. So 4th of July baby, and man, it's crazy because she literally still has not grown. So she's definitely got her mom's height, but I'm looking at them and their personalities. They're so different. Now, I can't say for my son right now because he just smiles all the time at everything. And
the Nates.
I can definitely say I'm his favorite because he said that first. So I won. All my kids said my name first. Leanne, my wife, was very upset. She was like, "Really, Nathan?" I said, "Yes." Jesus answered my prayers. But I guess I'm worried for their generation or
their future.
Yeah, just because if we're coming to a generation where college students are taking their parents to job interviews.
Yep.
That's a crazy. That's crazy. When you told me about that, I never thought it was real. I never did. I never. Think those things are real.
Like, hey, Mr. So-and-so, this is my dad. Let him do some talking for me. And you got your dad there just like, my son's great, my son. Okay, that's cool. We're not here to hear you. We're hiring your son. But you're actually seeing that increase.
But that's like going back to, that's the scary part. It's like going back to what you said earlier, with the growing up with kind of the babying of them, So if they don't grow the social skills that they're supposed to, and they don't grow because we've all been rejected.
Oh yeah.
But with them, rejection is different. They don't grow the coping mechanisms that they're supposed to, right?
There's to an extent, there's not rejection.
Isn't right?
It's like you said, swipe left.
Yeah,
It's out of your life.
So when we experience that, and that's very little, you said we don't experience it, but when we do experience rejections, because everyone does, you're not exempt from it. And when that happens, you hate that feeling.
Right, but it's the coping skills is that what comes in.
And
so if you're handed everything, right, and then you get into the real world where dad can't, there's a couple of things at the school that I know of that they pass kids just because. Well, their parents, they got a D. The parents go up there and they fight for them. They're like, all right, fine, we'll give you a C or a C plus. And they fight for them. And some teachers actually pass kids because they don't want to deal with the parents. So once you graduate.
All mom has to do is come in and start yelling. And they're like, whoa.
And it's this baby. And so when they get into the real world where, you know what? Not everybody gets a ribbon in the real world. Mm-hmm. Nobody gets participation ribbons. Mm-hmm. And if you're last, you don't get anything. Mm-hmm. And mom can't help you get that promotion anymore. And dad can't come in and fight for you for a raise or anything. So if you don't apply yourself, then you're not going to get it. So in a sense, they don't have that instant gratification. Hey, I've been here for 3 months and I'm not even manager yet. Mm-hmm. Well, then they quit. And you see people, seriously, you see people bounce from job to job to job because their skills weren't developed.
That's crazy. And I wish I could say, back that up, but it's very true because my background, being a teenage father, I had my daughter when I was 16 years old. I went to apply for a job. I went in there by myself. And I remember, having to go through the process and having to wait. I don't know if I'll get this job,
It's been 2 weeks.
Now kids are like, I think I did okay. Mom, could you talk to them for me? Dad, could you do something for me? And I'm seeing more of that. I really am. And there are some kids out there that still do have that drive where I don't have anybody. And it's not their fault. It's not one of those situations where it's like, that's not an excuse. Well, to an extent it is, because some of these kids don't have the parental guidance. Mm-hmm. And if they do, sometimes it's not the best. That's more of the, hey, I'm dad and I'm your best friend. Yeah. Are you going to ask your dad to be your best man at your wedding? That's going to be weird. But it's saddening, because even if they go and like, man, I did this myself, they are still so subject to this, and I feel like there's no escaping this social media, Snapchat, Instagram, Twitter. Everything's starting to die off. Mm-hmm. I really believe there's going to be 2 last standing. In the end. Because Vine was really big for a long time, and Twitter was like, yeah, we're done.
Yeah.
And now it's YouTube. YouTube was big when it first came out. Then Vine came along. It's like Vine was a new thing, and now YouTube's back because now all the famous Viners now can make longer videos.
True. Mm-hmm.
And
then you get paid for it.
Exactly. Now you get paid for it, not just by anybody. Mm-hmm. You get paid by Google. Mm-hmm. I work for Google. You to be able to say that as a 20-year-old, man, I get a paycheck every month from Google. That's pretty huge.
That's pretty huge.
I wish I had that.
Yeah. No, man, we just pay you in McDonald's.
And that's fine.
It's fine.
But yeah, no, I wanted to talk on this topic so much just because, we got 2 people in here, Marco's being the oldest out of all of us, but him having, a son in high school, and of course me, every day I think of whether or not is this going to go on further. There's just so many things that, and I'm starting to know now, because being a student minister with elementary kids, with youth, I'm starting to figure out, man, there is so much you can hide from whoever you want. They will never know unless one of your friends calls you out because you guys are not BFFs that day.
Yeah,
that's true.
I mean, and kids are okay with that. I mean, it's so easy to block somebody from seeing your Snapchat. Really easy. All you got to do is go to settings and just click on them. They'll still be your friends, but they'll never see your snaps.
They'll never see. Yeah.
And same thing with Facebook. You can specifically put who you want to see your whatever you post. So mom and dad think you're an angel because you let them see all your Bible verses. But what about the stuff they don't see?
The stuff that's on the inside.
Yeah, it's like, oh man, half naked women and girls. The top 10 ways to. I mean, dude, it's crazy. I mean, I literally saw a share from a high school student, and it was. I mean, it's even hard saying it because it makes me uncomfortable, but the top 10 ways to get your boyfriend to have an orgasm.
Yeah, that's
what? Really?
Yeah.
But I mean, in America, in its entirety, I mean, sex is no longer like.
It's not taboo.
It's not taboo no more. Sex is just like everybody does it. Let's all do it.
And that's the sad part. And then it's not only just sex, but it's just what we're going back to: drugs, alcohol, everything. It's acceptable now, and that's fine. And at some part, with Margot being the oldest and you having kids, I'm the only one that doesn't have kids. But even seeing that, it's like when I actually sit back and think about it, I'm just like, what I went through in my life, I was just like, when did that become okay for me to actually go do those things, to go get blackout drunk or to get high off of my mind, or to do these things? And I was just like, when did that become okay? And it's like, well,
see, I did those things too, but it was more out of spite, more out of rebellion, not for fun. And these kids are doing it for pleasure.
Oh, I did it for fun.
And that was me. I did it for fun.
I did it too. I'm your cut out cookie cutter shaped pastor's kid. The one who're like, oh man, we know about pastor's kids. They're the worst kids. I lived up to that name. Why? Because it was branded on me. And so I ran with it.
So you lived with the label.
Exactly. I lived with the label, and it turned me into somebody, unfortunately, I never wanted to be, but everything happens for a reason. If I never became that rebellious kid, I mean, I probably would never met my wife. Or, I mean, came back to our, relationship, and it's just crazy how things work out, because here I am, again, 9 years later, and I'm an ordained pastor. That's crazy. It's a 1 in a million. I mean, honestly. Teenage dad. Addicted to everything you can think of besides hardcore drugs. It's a 1 in a million shot for somebody like that. Now, I know God loves me. I know God's looking out for me. But I can't. This is what I tell kids is, you can hear my testimony, and if you think it's great, that's awesome. But don't go around thinking that you're also that 1 in a million. I'm not saying you're not. It's just, man, the chances of you following how I did, man, those chances are so slim. Like, I can definitely say if I didn't have parents in a church from Austin, Texas, that prayed for me and was by my side through this whole thing, I don't know if I would be in this position.
I think that's the beauty of, I've heard some of your story, and I know your story. I think the beauty of it is the way y'all display it. Because I know I've heard tons of testimonies growing up, and it always says, I was this, I did this, I did this, I did that, and then I met Jesus, and then just stopped.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I think the beauty of y'all's is that y'all lay it out. This is what I came from. I met Jesus. Now we have a personal relationship, and look at everything that's happened since. And the focus is more of, look at where I came from, but look what I'm doing. Look what he's doing in my life, and look what he's doing in me. Yeah. As opposed to, like I said, they show all the bad stuff. Then I met Jesus, and that's where they leave it. And I think that's, again, the beauty of y'all's testimony and the way y'all push it and paint it.
And it's crazy because we've all grown up in the church. I mean, whether it's different denomination or not, we all did. I mean, I met Jesus when I was 7 years old, and I knew about Jesus ever since. It's not like Jesus ever left my mind. I just and I wanted to do other things. I wanted to do the things that Jesus told me not to do, you know, because it was laid out to me as rules. Jesus says, don't do this. Jesus says, don't do that. I'm like, don't tell me not to do that, because then I want to do it, you know? I was like, don't tell. That's the temptation for me. As soon as you say I can't, I'm like, oh, just you watch.
It's seriously like bet.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, oh, so you're saying I can't bet.
Exactly.
You know, and it's outstanding, because that's still my personal, I mean, it's different, but it's like somebody said, you can't, you know, be the youngest such and such pastor at this age. Bet. Not because I say so, though, but because I know what God has spoken into my life. Mm-hmm. Man can't take that away. And the same goes for everybody. I mean, I believe everybody's called. I believe God has a special plan for everybody. But when we start trying to live up, I guess, to people's expectations, and I think this again ties into so much of this social media, and if we're not, and I see the guys, if we're not the guys who are doing what all the other guys are doing, well, we're seeing less than.
I think it's there's a great one that I saw, and it's like, I hope your life is as great as you posted on Facebook or something like that. And I love that quote, because you see the highlights. And
you don't see the badness.
You don't see the badness. You go back to why I did drugs. Mm-hmm. It was for the fun, but it was an escapism. Because at some point of addiction, you see that I just don't like my life as it is, so I need to escape. Even if it's just for a little bit, you know? Yeah, so I would get high, because at that time I hated myself, I hated my life, I escaped. And I kind of find myself, and I don't do a lot of social media, and I left for a while, and then I came back, but it's because of that. You know, I use it as an escape, you know, and I think that's part of the addiction that the kids are going through there. If they don't have to they don't have to face life head on. They get so immersed in their Snapchat streaks or their Instagram, going live on Instagram and stuff, and it's an escape route, and that's kind of what also feeds into the addiction.
And I can see that for sure. And I know for myself, not so much social media, but I could say video games. I know video games was a very hot topic back in the 90s. Yep. It's causing school shootings, whatever. I mean, that's neither here nor there, but video games was an outlet for me. It was an escape. Why? Because I'm going into something that has nothing to do with anything I'm currently going through. I can do whatever I want in this.
Exactly.
And the same thing, I mean, when I consumed alcohol, alcohol for me was... The people that say heroin, like, I got hooked on the first time I got drunk was like that first use of heroin. It was like, wow. Yeah. Carefree, no problems, but then you got to wake back up and all of a sudden, oh crap, reality is still there. Everything still sucks. Yeah. Everything is still wrong. So how can we build our youth today in order to face those challenges of reality? I want to say, I can't even say by example, because I can go and look what I am, look what I did, but it's not about me. The kids are looking, okay, I don't care about you. I want to know me. What's in this for me? If I go down the path of serving God, what's in it for me? I don't get to smoke weed no more. I don't get to say the F word every 3 seconds. I don't get to go have sex with whoever I want. You know, I could do, booty calls, whatever they want to call them. This is facts though. What's in it for me? Oh, I can have everlasting life.
That doesn't seem...
It's not as glorified as the world has really deemed everything else, right?
Right.
Unless you have that encounter, and we have all had that aha moment where God's like, hey, I am real. I'm here. I'm waiting. I didn't leave. I'm not saying, hey, come find me. I've been here this whole time. Mm-hmm. I just want you to turn and just say, God, I'm ready. But man, because I had a similar conversation, I said, to this high schooler. It's like, man, I see so much greatness in you. I believe you're called to this, that. And he's like, well, how do I start? I said, are you ready? I don't think so. It broke my heart because it's sin over what you could have. And I'm not saying that, what I was saying, like, man, you could be a pastor. That can all come true on it. But what I'm saying is, man, your life could be better. Because I've been on the other side. It may be great. It may be great for the night, but man, in the morning, life still hits you in the face.
But it's an empty life. We talked about, athletes on top of their game who won Super Bowls and stuff like that. And at the end of the Super Bowl, and after 4 or 5 rings and All-Stars and All-Pro this, and they sit there and they
spiral into depression.
They go into depression because once you get to the top, then what?
All you can do is come down.
You got nothing up there.
Exactly.
And I think you have to build on some kind of solid base.
Humble.
I think obviously Jesus is
of course
a huge part of it.
Because he could have placed himself at the top. He could have. I mean,
but he decided to care about.
But he was like, you know what? I'm just going to go love on the people that aren't wanted. I'm going to go love on everybody that everybody's saying they're wrong. And that's what he did. I mean, you got to take this. Even the ones that were condemning him and saying he was blaspheming, God. Mm-hmm. Jesus still died for them too. Mm-hmm.
We're called to love.
Exactly, love, and I think other people can take that one way or another, but love is always going to be the foundation of everything, and I think the love of something else is where we start losing ourselves.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
If we stop loving, for one, God, or loving others around us, and we start loving social media, we start loving ourselves.
I think that's where the translation gets lost. Is that yes, God is love, yes, but love is not God. You get to the point where you get so infatuated with this girl, or you get so hooked on, and
it's God.
It's love becomes God at that point, and it's not interchangeable in that sense.
Twisting the word, kind of twisting that subject
to make it to our standards as humans. I was reading something last night, and there's many ways that where we try to make what Jesus said. It's almost literally when you read the Great Sermon on the Mount. It's almost everything he said is literally impossible for man.
Yeah.
But when you have Jesus with you, you have that divine power that he had lives inside of you, Christ in you. Now, I was reading something else, and it was talking about being blessed. I want to bring this up right here. We get things, material things. We have a house. We're in a church right now. We have a car. I have all these things. I have all this stuff. Good things happen to me. Does that make me blessed, though? Does that make me truly blessed? And when you look up blessed in the dictionary, it says blessed. It says made holy or consecrated. So you're telling me that if I get this brand new TV or this brand new car, that makes me holy, and I'm saying I'm blessed. That doesn't make sense.
I mean, it's not the possessions that we get. I mean, it's
the transformation of your heart and your mind and everything in you. And it says blessedness is based on objective reality, realized in the miracle of transformation to a new divine nature. So Christ in you. That's good. That's what blessed is. That's what good. Blessedness is.
That's good, man.
And when our teenagers today, they're like, "Oh man, I'm blessed." I'm a victim of just as much. I've been saying it for years, blessed. But that's when I was saying, "Oh, I'm blessed. God." Yeah, I'm making my own human reality
decisions,
saying of that's what blessed is. But blessed is, I never realized it until literally all the things in my life were crumbling down. And the only one that stayed true was Jesus.
Yeah.
And people say, "Oh, we'll see Jesus at the very end," or all this stuff. But when he lives in you, it's like you see him every day. And then you put him in every situation. And that's what I envision for our kids, to see that.
And that's crazy. I mean, man, that was just, great depiction of blessed, because I remember thinking like that too. And today it's not, it feels great to get new things, but now I'm just like, you know what? I am blessed. Why? Because I do have a roof over my head. I have 3 beautiful kids, and I got a wife that is beautiful, and she's willing to put up with all my crap. I am blessed, not because I have whatever, or because I make whatever. I'm blessed because God allowed me to have these beautiful things that can't be replaced.
And through one thing only, that could all happen is because you have a relationship with Christ. If you didn't have that relationship with Christ, a lot of things would be different.
Oh yeah, I can say
and
that.
I can say that for all of us.
Yeah.
And
I mean, I can say without God, I mean, me and my wife probably would not, went through the thin. I mean, the thick. I mean, we could go through the thin, but the thick, when it got thick, man, we're just, I don't like you. I don't like you either.
It gets thick, the thin.
I think that's everybody, though.
Yeah,
But
that's the
you
truth.
always come back to is,
it's the truth.
hey, you know what? We're blessed. And I heard Francis Chan talking about this. I mean, just the depiction. I just breathed. Why? Because God allowed me to. And that blew my mind. Just that is like, every breath I take, every move I make. Hey, I'm about to get in the police right now. You know what I'm saying?
That's what I was thinking.
Seriously, it's because of God, though. I'm breathing. Why? Because God is allowing me to. I get to go home tonight to my kids. Why? Because God is allowing me to. And then people are like, well, why did God do this and that? We don't go to the negative immediately. Let's talk about the situations at hand. Whether people want to see it or not, we live in a very dark world.
Yeah.
Where kids are being sold into slavery. Little girls are being sold. This is real. We got little kids that are selling drugs in elementary.
Yeah.
This is real. I mean, I've encountered this.
Yep.
This is all real things that are happening right before our eyes. But because we all want to see the greatness in everything, and man, I'm guilty of that too, because I do. I want to see the greatness in humanity. Truth is, though, in the end, who's going to save us? Humanity?
Yeah.
Or the person who knows
Yeah.
humanity to the T.
And that's a lot we see in the Bible too, is that basically who do you serve? Do you serve man or do you serve God?
Can't serve 2 masters, right?
I can't. And I can honestly say with me having this personal relationship with Christ, a lot of the things that used to hold me back and the stuff that I used to worry about have just deceased, and I've never been more content in my life having this true relationship with Christ.
And I think there's a difference. There's a big misconception. And I found this is that I always went through relationship through relationship or job to job because I'm looking for the one that makes me happy.
Yeah.
And there's a difference between having happiness and having joy. And happiness is a feeling. Joy is just a state that you're in because you're filled with the Holy Spirit. And it's even on my down days, I have joy. And I think that's a huge because
you still see the brightness. You can still see the literally the light at the end of the tunnel.
There's still hope.
Yeah, it's like, man, everything's a little muddy and kind of crappy right now, but man, I know if I just get there and I see it, everything's gonna be good. And I mean, may sorrow last for the night, but joy comes in the morning. That's awesome. And
but I think it's like you said, what God do you serve? There's an old, there's an old saying that says a man who chases 2 rabbits will catch neither one.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how it is.
Because they're going in different directions.
Yeah.
They are.
So what are you going to put your focus
That's a
on?
good illustration.
I think as far as bringing, what are we going to do? Yeah, we need to have something Christ-centered and have them have a relationship with Christ, as opposed to just, there's a difference between knowing Jesus and knowing of Jesus.
Yeah.
Because I grew up, going to classes and stuff. So I knew of Jesus, I knew of God and all that stuff, but I never knew Jesus. And there's two different things.
Knowing of and actually knowing.
Know and have a relationship. I know we talked about it, but so like in Portugal, we go back to the addiction aspect of it. So in Portugal, they like 2001, they did away with all the drug laws, right? So they saw the way we have it modeled here in the U.S. Any kind of, if you're an addict, Of course, you come out of jail. We stamp you as an addict. We give you a criminal record, and we shame you, and we mock you, and we jeer you. I know, like
put your picture up everywhere.
Yeah,
so
literally.
you know, yeah.
Yeah. So in Portugal, what they did instead is, so they got together and said, we're going to outlaw all. We're going to do away with all the drug laws. So anything goes from crack to meth to weed. Jeez. And they actually, it was like 2% of their population was hooked on heroin, right? So when they did away with them, they figured all the money that we have invested in trying to condemn them, let's put it and invest in them, right? So they still do the rehab stuff that we have, and they go through counseling and psychology and stuff like that, which is healing, which is great, and it has its merit. But so once they get into the real world, they go and they have these businesses. So, if you're a mechanic, they go to a garage and they're like, hey, would you hire so-and-so? And he's a recovering addict. He's been sober for about a year. Hire him and we'll pay half of his salary for a year. And that's the government paying. That's crazy. And so it's investing. So they plug him into a community that is that once you plug him into community, then like you say, you trade one for another. That at that point, heroin addiction has gone down, AIDS has gone down, a lot of things have since gone down, and it's worked so well that they don't want to go back to the old ways. So it's just like back to the rats. It's the environment that you're around.
That's
so
city.
If we get our youth and put them plug them into like a community type based.
Help one another.
Yeah, help one another and serve one another.
That's great.
Because when crap hits the fan, it's not your Twitter friends, it's not your Instagram friends that are going to show up at your door at 2 a.m. when you're thinking about killing yourself. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's the people that you build relationships with. So if you do it Christ foundation, relationship based community with these kids, I think it'll overcome a lot to where they'll get to the point where they don't have to have their phone all the time. They don't have to sleep with their phone anymore because they're trading one relationship for another. They're true relationships to a relationship with Snapchat.
Yeah. That's great, man. Well, for one, I think we could go all night with this subject, but I want to thank both of you guys for giving input. There's definitely going to be more of this connection, and I just love this, being able to get to talk, but also give parents insight. And I guess that was my whole vision for What in the World. For one, yes, to help teenagers, but also to help parents better understand what is going on. What in the world is going on in my teenager's head? What in the world is going on in their schools? Man, us as, ministers to these young kids, we're seeing it firsthand. Marco, you have a son who's in high school. So you're definitely seeing it firsthand.
Yeah, I see it.
And Justin, college, you're still fresh out too.
Not far off. Not far off at all.
Man, I unfortunately, I didn't get... I had the opportunity, but I chose other things instead. So my high school days were very numbered. Pampers and feeding babies, man. That was my decision. But man, I just want to appreciate you guys so much for being here and stories and knowledge, and this is just fun. This really is. And
I love this.
I want to be able to give parents who get to listen to this tonight, if you hear a lot of rumbling and scratching, as that West Texas crazy rain, it's literally been raining every night. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's 90 degrees during the day.
Oh yeah.
I think it hit like 111 the other day, then it started raining and it was like a flood, and I'm just like, well,
that's not okay.
And the crazy part is I have to go home, and I have to take the interstate home. So,
hey, so do I, man. So
we're gonna be flooded.
Yeah, interstate loop, and hope Indiana is not flooded. That's what I gotta pray. If so, I'm swimming home. But man, I appreciate you guys. parents that are listening tonight, if you guys have questions, by all means, you can find myself, JC Ramirez, on Facebook, and as well as Justin Esquivel and Marco Padron, and we're willing to answer questions. If you guys have questions about this podcast or anything that relates to this, or in general, things that you guys want to know about more, this is what this is for. And we want to be able to help not just one generation, but all generations, that everybody's in unity. And I think, was it Luke chapter 4, verse 32 puts it best? Man, we're in this one heart, one mind. Mm-hmm. And I think we get the opportunity to do that with this. And man, can't wait to see what God's going to use this for. I mean, to touch lives, hopefully, or just to inform people. That's me. I just want to inform people.
Just educate, yeah.
You know, so parents know. I mean, hey, if your son is sleeping with his phone, you might want to go through it.
And I know we're wrapping up. I mean, there is a dynamic.
Oh, for sure.
A drastic change of having your phone and not having your phone, and I'm sure, and I've heard this from other parents as well. But so when they get in trouble, you take their phone from them. They're actually good kids.
They're more social, are they not?
Yes, they come out of their room. They're like, "Hey, you want me to help you clean? Hey, you want me to do dishes? Hey, you want me to
out the room?
I gotta do something."
It's crazy, yeah. And then whenever you give them back to their phone, they're just moody and just, "How's your day? Okay, you know."
Yeah.
And when you take them away, you're like, "How's your day? You know what? Funny thing happened today."
It's crazy. I remember talking to a young lady this past week, and she got grounded from her phone, and she's like, I watched the news for the first time in ever. The world is such a bad place. And I was just like, yeah, I mean, she's like, wow, I can see how much has changed. And I'm like, I've been grounded for like 2 days. Like, all of a sudden you have this revelation.
It takes one encounter with Jesus. It takes 2 days just to see what's going on in the world.
Let me take her phone away for 2 days, and all of a sudden they're talking more intelligently and they're listening to better music. Just got to pray for that, man. But that's a different conversation for another time. But again, parents, we're praying for you guys. We're in this with y'all. We're in the trenches, and we're always willing to do whatever we can to make sure that your kids are, for one, being fed biblical truth and knowledge that they can apply to themselves, but also to you guys, because you guys raise these little ones and these even older ones. And man, props to you guys, because I don't know if my parents would have been able to raise today's JC. Man, if I had the accessibility they have today, man, I think my parents would have went crazy. So, because that's just saying how bad it was. But other than that, man, you guys have anything to say?
Good.
I think we're good.
All right, man. Well, guys, this is Pastor JC Ramirez again from the Lubbock Dream Center, signing out. We'll see you guys next week.